The Bowling Nader Show.
In a world where Nathan Drake can scale mountainsides and scarcely need to catch his breath, Darkworks and Ubisoft Shanghai set out to take a more realistic approach to what a person is actually capable of. In this title, your character can not only become winded while navigating the side of a fallen building, he can run out of energy altogether and fall to his death if you're not careful. This game is not survival horror, it's just survival. Your only goal here is to pass through the trials within and be able to rightfully claim, I am alive. An unknown person is depicted watching handheld camera recordings of the game's protagonist as he deals with the trials of braving the post-apocalyptic city of Haventon. From this narrative perspective, I Am Alive plays out in a series of flashbacks, a fact that you're reminded of in one of these cutscenes each time you complete a section of the game. Your character was away from home when the event hit his hometown, where his wife and daughter remained. Desperate to find them and make sure that they are okay, the protagonist makes his way all the way back to Haventon on foot, shocked at what he finds when he finally arrives. Now, the event is never actually explained, but it basically looks like Earth got really pissed at Haventon. Large buildings are toppled, highways are cracked and fallen, and poisonous dust storms plague the region. The few people that remain are either begging for help or banding together in violent gangs determined to rule the area, taking advantage of the lack of any organized law. It's a pretty believable angle on the apocalypse. I Am Alive looks good. From positions up high, Haventon looks absolutely decimated. At ground level, a thick cloud of dust offers visibility only as far as a few feet in front of you. In an effort to really drive home the lifeless atmosphere, the colors are at a very low saturation level, almost completely grayscale at times. The music is equally brooding and ominous for the entirety of the experience, and it ebbs and flows in intensity in line with your character's condition. The voice acting is well done and the mood is well established. While making your way to your destinations in the game, you'll be carefully managing your stamina and health meters. What I mean is this: when performing difficult tasks, your character gets tired. No shit, right? Whereas most games will let you freely explore the world without consequence, I Am Alive requires you to take care at every turn. If you're wondering what might be beyond that wall, you're not just going to start climbing. You're going to step back, survey the area, search for the easiest route, and check your inventory. And when you actually decide to give it a shot, you'll find that the simple experience of moving from point A to point B is much more suspenseful here than in your typical video game. I mean, when you're trying to find higher ground to get out of a poisonous dust cloud and your visibility is completely shot, this might be the only game I've ever played where walking across the street was a visceral thrill ride. Especially when you can feel your heartbeat through your controller in an awesome force feedback feature. And that's not even taking into account the other people you'll meet on your journey. Some of them just need some help, and if you choose to give up your hard-earned supplies in order to help them, you'll be rewarded with retries. And they're a real commodity in I Am Alive, because retries let you continue a section from a recent checkpoint. But if you run out of them, you'll have to start all the way at the beginning of that section of the game, which could set you back a good 20 minutes or more. The threat of losing progress will encourage you to tread lightly in the early goings, but not unlike the typewriter ribbons from the first Resident Evil game, they later give way to undue frustration that keeps the fun factor buried in the rubble of Haventon. Not everyone that you meet really wants help, though. Many others are really more concerned with their own brand of survival. Some will violently protect their property, but really won't bother you if you don't bother them.
Hey, who's that?
I don't want any trouble. I'm already gone.
Others, well, they want their turf clear of anyone but their own, and they will kill you to rob you of your belongings. When you first come across these threatening situations, I Am Alive hits on some really great moments. It treats combat altercations like puzzles, relying on your wits over your reflexes. Being approached by 4 armed men might seem too dangerous to overcome, but you can survive if you're clever and quick. You appear to the assailants to be unarmed as they approach you slowly, taunting you all the way. but once the leading man is close enough to you, you'll pull out your machete and quickly slice his throat. The startled remaining men arm themselves, and you notice that one of them has a gun, and he's your main worry. You pull out your pistol and shoot him before he can pull the trigger himself. The last two men are armed with machetes, but you have your gun, and you're pointing it at them. You did use your only bullet to take down the gunman, but they don't know that your chamber is empty. They put their hands up and implore you to calm down, but they're still looking for an angle to get at you. You shout at them, ordering them backwards until one of them has his back to a long drop down. Your barrel pointed at his face, you approach him, and you kick him backwards, sending him to his death. Then it's just you and the last machete-wielding foe. In a bout of desperation, he charges. You pull out your machete and fend him off, ultimately striking him down. You're the last man standing, free to loot their bodies for supplies and continue on. The occasional puzzle-like combat situations, along with the intense moments of managing your stamina when climbing, come together to form a unique and thrilling experience for about the first half of the game. But the second half puts the emphasis in all the wrong places, trading the grand-scale outdoor exploration for claustrophobic combat based primarily on how many bullets you have. The awesomely effective realism takes a back seat when armored enemies are suddenly impervious to bullets, short of a perfectly placed headshot. Yeah, what starts as a unique and inventive game ends up stooping to headshots. The other machete-wielding enemies suddenly become extremely fast and you find yourself running and gunning, with precious few bullets of course, but the wonderful puzzle aspect of combat seems all but gone. These aren't the only hiccups. For a game so intent on providing realistic consequences to strenuous activity, having a little girl strapped to your back for much of the game does not affect your stamina at all. Whether you be jumping over chasms or climbing elevator shafts. Just a little immersion breaking. Characters you find on the street will greet you with a problem they'd like you to solve and jeer at you for ignoring them in a nice touch. But take 10 steps away from them and then 10 steps back, and they'll repeat their initial introduction as if they've never seen you before.
Young man, you have arrived just in time to watch me die. I have but one last wish, to smoke a final cigarette. I know you wouldn't care anyway. Young man, you have arrived just in time to watch me die. One last wish.
I know they're all starving and whatnot, but come on. Technical issues get in the way too. On more than one occasion, after being killed by a gun-wielding character, I returned to him on a retry and took him down before he could shoot. But when I collected the gun he left behind, it was empty. I know there's supposed to be bullets in there because he just killed me with them a minute ago. And as rare as bullets are in I Am Alive, that's a big bummer, especially when you just used one to kill him. Another issue with combat is that many actions are relegated to the same button, and the game doesn't always pull off the command you intended. Push X to order a character back, and then push X again to push him off of a cliff. But instead you enter into melee combat with him, which is also an X command, leaving you open to be flanked from the side. So you're dead even though you had the right idea. And of course, there are moments when pushing X is supposed to order your enemy back but doesn't do anything at all. I won't give out any spoilers, but while I enjoyed the ambiguous yet suggestive ending of the game, there's a character that's left completely unaccounted for, and it felt rushed, like they couldn't squeeze it in. Kinda came off sloppy. Doesn't help that it followed one of the most annoying sequences of the entire game. Oh yeah, and your character who states at the beginning of the game that he's never fired a gun is an immediate expert with a bow and arrow when he gets his hand on one. The longer you play, the more the game seems to descend in a nonsensical frustration. Now, if I sound annoyed, that's because that's how I felt for a lot of the game. But I can't deny the creativity that I Am Alive displayed and executed in the early goings. With that, it's time for the bottom line. I am giving I Am Alive an average score, 2.5 out of 5. This one sits squarely on the fence for me. Things start off on an excellent foot. A slow-paced explorer offering up consequences for normally menial tasks like jumping and climbing. It really made you look at the game world differently and you wanted to take it all in. The first bouts of combat require logic in the vein of adventure games, and for a time, this is definitely a good game. But after you play for a couple of hours, it gets worse, not better. The rest of the sub-6-hour campaign is littered with seriously frustrating combat sequences, and while you will still get the occasional entertaining climbing sequences, the exploration vibe is gone and the emphasis on combat is annoying. That's the best word I can use for the latter half. Annoying. I wanted it to be over well before it finally was. Some will have no problem putting down $15 in order to experience the first few sections, where the game is firing on all cylinders. Others would feel like they wasted their money when putting up with numerous irritating issues. I keep going back and forth trying to decide whether I'm glad I played this or if my time would have been better spent elsewhere, and that's why I scored it in this way. Now, if you have some thoughts on the game yourself or the review, I'd like to hear your comments, so leave them below. And as always, thanks for visiting Default Prime, and thanks for watching the Bowling Otter Show. We'll see you next time.
You have arrived just in time to watch me die.